Hello and welcome to UWO Now. I'm your host, Wendell Ray. Thanks so much for joining us for another conversation with a member of our UWO community. Going to the grocery store is a regular experience for most of us, but what if transportation is an issue, which makes it difficult for you to get to a grocery store? Or what if there are no grocery stores in your neighborhood? Food deserts are areas where residents of a community do not have easy access to healthy food options. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a UWO graduate has worked to help address food insecurity and other issues. Maurice Mo Wince is a UWO Distinguished Alumni Award recipient and joins us today from Milwaukee. Welcome to the program, Mr. Wince.
Thank you so very much. I am excited and happy to be here.
Okay, tell me about, let's start before UWO, and then we'll grow into where you are now and what you're doing in Milwaukee. But tell us about who Little Mo was.
All right, fair enough. I was born in Cook County Hospital in Illinois. My parents came here when I was 7 months old, and when I say here, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So from 7 months, I have literally been converted to a full-fledged cheesehead, if you will.
Okay, all right.
Um, so yeah, we are a family of 8 girls and 3 boys. A son of the city here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, born and raised, raised on Second and right in the inner city, if you will. Graduated from the University of Riverside High School. And in 1988, I had the pleasure of being accepted to the University of Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Why did you choose UWO?
Be honest with you, we had an amazing recruiter by the name of Norris Batts. Norris Batts was really instrumental in recruitment and retention at that particular time for minority, black, brown, and indigenous students throughout the 5 states. And Norris was extremely persistent in saying, Mo, you've got something, give us a try. And after visiting the site, at Oshkosh, my freshman tour. I then made the decision. It was away from home, but yet close enough to get back home, if you will.
You are a human services and education major. Tell us how you decided on those two courses of study.
Certainly. I decided to do a major in human service and education, mainly because of the um, the needs I had as a young man or growing up here in the city of Milwaukee. I was exposed to Maslow's hierarchy of needs in
Mhm.
human service and education by a professor, Dr. Coggins, and Janet Hagan. And during
Okay.
this process, I learned the basic needs of human beings. It was then I decided to continue on with that major.
And once you left UWO, how were you able to use those skills and the knowledge that you gained from pursuing a degree in those areas? What did you do?
So
What were the
definitely,
jobs you had?
directly out of Oshkosh, I then was a hired by the city of Milwaukee County, in community housing and development, placing special needs clients, if you will, into housing. These clients had multiple diagnoses, which is AODA, mental health, HIV, and poly or dual diagnosed individuals, and assisting them in consistency and continuity with housing and making sure that that housing would be not interrupted for any one of those ailments. And I stayed there for 14 years. And at that 14th year, I then decided to participate in supplying or being a housing source. So I literally became a real estate investor and developer.
Well, let's pause
Purchased.
right there. Let me pause
Yeah,
right there. Okay,
sure.
you decided that there had to have been something that went a light that went off, or something in your spirit welled up. Why, after 14 years, did you say, maybe I should provide housing as well, or be on the other end of that connection?
I guess having my finger, being on the front lines as an employee for the Milwaukee County Housing Program, and also coming from the community, being a son of the community, there are additional needs. And those needs, to me, in my mind, was a landlord that literally was empathetic and sympathetic to our population, if you will, and a landlord that needed to make sure that one day maybe he would wear his social worker hat and the other day it would be a landlord hat. And knowing both sides, if you will, of the tracks, I literally use both of my skill sets to assist in that process. And sometimes during that 14-year experience, we would have landlords that would not understand our population at all, and not understanding that the individual was faced with mental illness, or he was faced with AODA and or polydiagnosed, or that individual would have a high recidivism rate of eviction. So I those were the things that assisted me in making the decision. Saying, we need some folks that literally understand our population.
Okay, so you made the switch, and you bought your first property, and were you then working with Milwaukee Housing to get residents, or to help them
Yes,
find a residency?
yes, most definitely. So we started off with a single family, and then we started off with 4 units and eight plexes, and grew from there. But definitely work with the city of Milwaukee, and multiple community-based organizations that had those individuals placed at their agencies, if you will. They could be private or not private, but they were in charge of, if you will, those individuals in their active daily living skills, and maintaining them and mainstreaming them into the city of Milwaukee, which is at that time was scattered site housing.
Now, being on the other side of the table, were there lessons that you learned, or how did you grow after now being a landlord who was providing housing to the people that previously you were trying to find housing for?
Um, well, my growth or experiential learning process, if you will, which is something I also learned from human service and education, was dual. It helped me literally not to be spooky spiritual about it, but flowing my gifts and talents, if you will. It's something that I love doing. I love serving the community. I love making sure our folks' needs, food, clothing, housing, and shelter, are met. Food insecurity and housing go hand in hand, if you will.
Hmm.
And Maslow's hierarchy of needs is just the basic needs, filling the basic needs of our community and folks, and literally making sure that they, for the majority of part, the folks that we house are from either a minority population, and having a better understanding of minorities or various groups of ethnic groups. It also helps me to develop relationships, if you will. Um,
Where did you go after that? What need did you see that you wanted to help fulfill after you began housing folks?
well, I'll share my journey all the way up to um, directly in investments and developments with real estate and housing folks with special needs population. Um, so about 7 years ago, right here in the Sherman Park neighborhood, we had civil unrest, if you will. and our folks in this community express themselves two ways. They express themselves both verbally and physically. Well, for the physical part of that, the destruction of their very own community took place
Mm-hmm.
right here in Sherman Park neighborhood. So, longtime member of an amazing church at the time, Parkland Assembly of God, now Embassy Center, MKE, under the leadership of Bishop Walter Harvey. During the time of that civil unrest, our pastor gathered leaders and folks that had stakeholders, if you will. And that's where the rubber meets the road. He says, you know what, guys, we've got to do something and we've got to do something. And it has to be outside these walls. So we took to ourselves and start rebuilding and transforming the community. But prior to then, we have town hall meetings and listening sessions, if you will, to literally find the pain points or the needs of the folks. It's one thing to be in the community, but becoming a part of the community and trying to figure out what the underlying issues were at that particular time. Of course, it initially started at a gas station, but it was beyond a gas station
Mm-hmm.
argument.
Yeah.
Folks had shared in these listening sessions that, do you know we don't have a full scale grocery store for the last 18 years? Do you know that uh, during those listening sessions that we held those listening sessions around food, gathering whether it was a backyard or a parking lot, and or somebody's backyard, potluck style, barbecue grills, all out. And Mr. Wonder, when I tell you that these folks came out and they cooked like grandmamas, and
Mm-hmm.
no, they could cook you and grandmama under the table. A skill set beyond your Bishop and I literally almost every cooking event literally almost had to have a trailer or a U-Haul to take us away. It was like, oh my God, did you get to taste that? Did you get some of that? They could literally cook. So most of those folks that were sharing some of those needs, number one, they could cook. And they had what we call or define as a side hustle,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
no business savvy at all. So our very first business venture was with collaboration with the church in creating a nonprofit organization, Prism EDC, with Walter Harvey. And Prism EDC, very first project is the commercial kitchen, a commercial shared kitchen where we wrap our arms around up to 27 culinary artists, teaching them serve safe and creating their business and insurance and how to serve properly and how to become a provider or an official caterer or official baker. We have we have multiple success stories, and since that creation of the shared kitchen space, we've had folks. 9 of those culinary artists now have their baking goods on our grocery store shelves, which I'll tell you about the grocery store a tad bit. And 5 of those individuals have scaled their business to brick and mortar. Now
Oh
that's
wow.
amazing. Each one of those 27 culinary artists or official businesses that are now created have 1 to 3 employees, depending upon their catering deal. So the economic impact, not only for the community, but creating jobs and creating businesses, helped us in the transformation of the civil unrest.
It's fascinating how this hand up really has worked in the area of Sherman Park.
Certainly. Yes, definitely. The impact and reach of finding out the basic needs or assisting them in their pain points, if you will, and wrapping our arms around them as a nonprofit organization and helping them uh, become more business savvy and structured, but most of all, self sustaining
Mm-hmm.
for themselves, their household, as well as employment for others throughout the city of Milwaukee. It has been amazing.
So we have this upstart kitchen that you were talking about, where you are have folks there who clearly were interested in cooking because they came and you were teaching them all these things. Who was teaching them? Who was giving them this education to help them move from, cook to caterer or restaurateur?
As an organization, of course, you can't do anything in society or in the community by yourself. So definitely, it was definitely a collaboration. Prism EDC has a board, and it also has a executive director and employees, all with the skill set in helping you in your infant stages, whether you are an aspiring culinary artist and or a full-fledged culinary artist, and making sure that you understand branding, marketing, how to set up your account, how to pay your bills in a timely fashion, um, what business insurance is for a culinary artist, and making sure that you have the human resource. So we hired individuals and have workshops around those sorts of things to make sure that you understand business and you have all the skill sets to make sure that your business is sustainable.
That was a very obvious success. Tell us, though, how we now have a grocery store. You saw a need clearly in the Sherman Park area. When you had the meetings, the residents told you that we don't have a full-service grocery store in our area, and that is a problem in many communities across the country, particularly in urban areas. And you saw this need. Then how does Sherman Park Grocery Store develop?
So definitely, Sherman Park Grocery Store uh, literally it sits on Fond du Lac Avenue and Sherman Boulevard. Right at that particular intersection, um, we literally have two state highways, Sherman Boulevard and 41, which leads me directly to University of Oshkosh. Uh, so the neighborhood and that intersection is one of 13 food deserts throughout the city of Milwaukee. And during COVID, unfortunately, this particular site where we have the grocery store during COVID, the commercial daycare center that was here did not survive. Practicing good stewardship and the spirit of generosity and understanding that that was one of the needs that the community had mentioned several years ago. So my wife and I, as investors and developers, was doing some research and trying to figure out what other resources were made available. I came across almost like simultaneously the first week during COVID, the individuals who released this unit gave us the keys. The second week, the local alderman put out an RFP for a fresh food access grant. And by
Mm.
this being a food desert, Mr. Wendell, I am not a grant writer at the very least. I start pecking. Our children need apples and oranges, and they face diabetes and cholesterol and heart disease and high lead levels. And my sister is a nurse, and she demands that our children eat green so that you can get the lead level down. And all of this went into this grant, if you will. And the city of Milwaukee awarded us the grant and said, "Hey, we can get behind this right here." And 18 months ago, we took off. And we literally have been open 18 months now and serving a neighborhood that consists of 40,000 residents that did not have access to a full scale grocery store, um,
Now,
and fighting and
some people
combating
hear
those
that,
ailments.
Mo, and they're like 40,000 people. Are you kidding me? Yeah, but 40,000 residents in nearly 4 square miles, which is the area that encompasses Sherman Park, did not have access
Yeah.
to a grocery store like
Yeah.
this. That's what some
Yeah.
may think is incredible, but that was the case, and now they do. So I'm sure they were pleased to see that coming up in their neighborhood.
Well, and I the closest one is a 2 mile radius from our intersection. The closest one is a 2 mile radius
Okay.
from our intersection. So there is one within the 4 mile radius, but the 2 mile radius directly here, which then makes it accessible to our children that face, of course, the childhood obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, to hypertension, and not just our children, our adults as well with
Sure.
diabetes. And being able to have or access to healthy and affordable foods. Our grocery store literally sits directly in between, sandwiched, if you will, between two gas stations that served our community for the last 30 years. I've got a story, and I'd love to share it with
Go
you.
ahead.
My story, my story is about a young lady who lives directly behind the grocery store on Medford Avenue. This young lady is not so young. She's 82 years old. And for the last 18 years, on a fixed income, she's been grocery shopping at whatever was available to her because she has no other relatives. She just walks around the corner and shops at both grocery stores whenever she gets her benefits once a week. Young lady walks out with only one bag of groceries. But now that our grocery store is open, and in her words, exactly, baby, I could get some greens and some apples and some yams.
Hmm.
And on that very same budget, she now has 3 bags of groceries.
That's fantastic, and sustaining nutritious offerings is a wonderful thing. So you mentioned your wife. What role has she been playing in helping you with all of this?
I've ordained my wife as the boss with the hot sauce. Every row, every. So my wife is has a huge background in retail, um, and serving the community. So she plays an extreme role, or a really, really positive and a crucial role as it relates to making sure that our vendors, we have the right products and getting the right price points and margins for,
Mhm.
which sometimes can be difficult
Yeah.
as a small mom and pop grocery store. I don't have the purchasing power as Kroger or Audis. They can buy truckloads and semi loads, or Walmart, if you will,
Hmm.
and have an amazing price point. But negotiating those things with our vendors, my wife is extremely instrumental in that role.
There's also a laundromat. Tell us about that.
Yeah, certainly. During the listening sessions, our folks were saying, "Have you been in our laundromat? I wouldn't wash my dog in there." And it's just folks that have been doing stuff, and they, matter of fact, if you go in there right now, Bobo living in the bathroom. So we address that need with partnering with Clean Laundromat, if you will. Clean Laundromat is a franchise directly out of Iowa. And Clean Laundromat has a standard, a set standard of going to rural as well as suburban sites only. So our site right here in Sherman Park is the very first inner city site ever with Clean Laundromat. We were introduced with Phil through a Christian leadership conference, and Phil says, he does a site visit, and he says, "Mo, if you guys, the market analysis says if you had a laundromat on this corner based off of the rental population and the single moms and the economic status, you guys would do amazing." That was it. It was over. We immediately started to work on the laundromat. And the laundromat is now a part of this economic ecosystem that we've created. And when I say economic ecosystem, if you can envision the 27 culinary artists buying eggs, milk, bread, all of their ingredients, fresh fruits and vegetables and meats from the grocery store. utilizing those products directly inside their business. Also, if you can envision now, not only the community utilizing the laundromat, but me as the grocery store owner, I wash all my uniforms there. So does all the culinary artists. They literally utilize, so this economic ecosystem, if you will, um, the funding stays here within the community, and it's literally undergirds all the businesses, if you will, right here in this system.
That's great. So there is, as you said, a uh, business supporting business, consumers supporting the businesses in their neighborhood. So the businesses continue to grow. Uh, Folks are being employed. Folks are being trained. It sounds like a model that can be replicated elsewhere. Has anyone from any other community ever asked you, Mo, how'd you do it, and how can we do it where we live?
Definitely. We literally, in the last 18 months, have been exposed to the University of Marquette and the University of Marquette Dean of Students of their MBA program now has wrapped their arms around us and helping us demonstrate to the students or those in those cohort groups and what it means and what it looks like as community businesses and understanding what it means to buy local, support local. Um, so definitely the model has been recognized. We are blessed and fortunate enough to have an appointment with Barack Obama's um, Ambassador Cousins, will be visiting us next week. Ambassador Cousins is out of Illinois University, and she's in charge of food insecurity. She will literally, we will be participating in a pilot program and studying food insecurity throughout the United States and how this model can be replicated and duplicated and placed in any pain point throughout the United States, whether it is inclusive of just a commercial kitchen or a grocery store, or all three: commercial kitchen, grocery store, and the event hall and studio, dance studio, that my wife has here directly next door to the laundromat. And that dance studio consisted of um, her. My wife teaches praise dancing to the youth in the community, the young ladies. She's also the lead praise dancer at the church. So her
Wow.
skill sets and her gifts are actually active in the community, not just in the community, but becoming a part of the community.
I want to talk about that because as you, and we'll wrap up here now as well, as you begin to expose others to what you've done there, I think it's more than just, and folks will hear this or see this and say, okay, well, he's an entrepreneur. He's been very aggressive. He's tackled markets and done well. He's seen where there were obvious needs and he filled those needs. That's what an entrepreneur does. But I think from what I have read and what I understand about what you and your wife and others there have been doing, it's not just about taking advantage of a situation. But as you started off, you talked about needs and meeting the needs of a community and being in the community and being a part of the community. So you don't get in your car and drive away and live 30 miles from where your businesses are. Is that correct?
That is correct. No, not at all.
Where are
As a matter
you?
of fact, I am within 7 minutes of the grocery store, but my parents literally 3 minutes away while in high school. I think I was a sophomore in high school, purchased a house on Medford Avenue, directly behind the grocery store here, 4817 West Medford. And that is our involvement since, see, if I graduated in 88, it would be about 86 being a part of this neighborhood.
Wow. And still there. And that's, I think, the key that you're a resident of the neighborhood, you have history in the neighborhood, and you're helping to continue to help that neighborhood thrive. And I want to say congratulations to you, Mo. It's been a pleasure talking to you, an outstanding representative UWO. You were a distinguished UWO Alumni Award recipient this past year. Congratulations for that, and well deserved.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to UWO Now. Remember to catch the latest episode of UWO Now. Go to our website, wrst.org, and you can also watch us on the UWO YouTube page. I'm Wendell Ray. Thanks for listening.